Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Cott and I'm delighted as ever to be joined by Record Sports Scott McDermott. Scott, how's it going?
Not bad, Daniel. A bit tired after my travels, but apart from that, I'm all right.
Don't you worry, Scott. We will get on to your travels very soon indeed. We're also joined by the one and only Tam McManus. Tam, how's it going?
Good lads. Hopefully the Hibs can restore a bit of pride tonight.
Well, that's where I want to start. Hibs obviously are playing against Legia Warsaw tonight. Before we get kind of stuck into it and predictions and whatnot, I actually caught up with Record Sports' Fraser Wilson, who was in the fan zone with Hibs fans today. Maybe we'll start with that and let's see what he had to say. Joined on the hotline live now by the one and only Fraser Wilson, all the way from Warsaw. Fraser, tell me that Hibs are going to restore my faith in Scottish football tonight.
Well, these boys behind me, boys and girls, should I say, certainly seem to think so. David Gray was talking positively before they headed out here. The team believe it. Got a hell of a job on their hands if they're to do it. Of course, history beckons for Hibs. No Hibs side has ever qualified for the kind of group stages or the league phase or whatever you want to call it these days in the modern era of European football. So if they can overturn this 2-1 first leg deficit here in Warsaw tonight, then they will make history. It's on the line. It's on the line for them. It's all there for them. But I tell you what, an atmosphere here with these guys. You've just got me at a quiet moment so I can actually get some words in. But this place is rocking. And by the way, fair play to Ian Gordon and the Gordon family. They've paid for everything here. Free
That's
food,
amazing.
free drink, 30 grand they've set. 30 grand the Hibs owners have put into this fan zone. And I think the vast majority of the 1,700 Hibbies that are coming through will be trying it out before the game starts.
That's amazing. That is absolutely brilliant.
That's how we look after your fans, honest. Hibs do it properly. You've got it. Hats off to them. Whoa, sorry.
Look, I know that Hibs obviously lost 2-1 in the first leg at home, but see, watching it, Fraser, I don't think this is by any means a lost cause at all. I think Hibs have still got a really good chance of turning this around.
Look, if it's anything like last week, there's going to be chances galore at both ends. Legia Warsaw could have wrapped that up 4-5-1. Hibs could have won the game last week. They missed it. There we go. That's a wee wave for the boys. Hibs missed a host of chances. You know, they could have been 2-0 up early doors easy. That's been a pattern of their play in this Conference League campaign. They start fast. So if they can start fast and get that first goal here tonight in the Polish Army Stadium, they've got a real chance of piling the pressure on the home side. I don't think they fear hostile atmospheres. You saw that against Partizan Belgrade in the last round when they went over to Belgrade, and one of the most hostile atmospheres and stadiums I think many of them will have played in. Handled it brilliantly and won 2-0. If they can do that tonight, they really deserve their place in the history of these players.
And the one player that I think is on a lot of Hibs fans, and Hibs fans and beyond, lips, is Kieran Bow. I mean, if Hibs are going to do it tonight, he's probably going to be the talisman that helps turn it around, isn't he? Absolutely.
Let's hope he doesn't try anything for 50 yards again. I think he's had his one hit of wonder for this season. But you know what? He's got everything. He's got power, real raw power for a young boy. He's huge. He knows how to run in behind. The work rate. He loves getting back into his own half and making a tackle, which Scottish fans love, Hibs fans love. So he's absolutely won them over. There's been a lot of hype about him. He did miss a big chance in last week's first leg at 0-0, where he didn't even hit the target. So there are improvements to come in this game. David Gray said that he will get better. Sorry, there's a lot more to come from him. But if he turns it on tonight, you know, the power of Kieran Bowie and the pace of Martin Boyle, that would frighten any defence if they're on form tonight.
Absolutely. The other thing that I have to get your take on, Fraser, I don't know if many of the Highbies have been talking about it out there in Poland, but the story we have online on Record Sport today is about Lyndon Dykes.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I was running that one out here, and then I see Burnsy as usual beat us to it, so good on him. He never beat Burnsy in the story.
So is there something to it?
There's interest. Hibs have confirmed there is interest. They've told us there is. He's on a list. He's on a list of players they're interested in. They're playing it coy, as you can imagine, because nothing's agreed yet, but there's definitely interest there. Don't know how much getting through tonight would maybe help them get the big man in. I mean, you're talking about the power of Kieran Bowie. If you had Lyndon Dykes, I couldn't imagine playing the two of them together.
I was going to say, imagine the two of them and Martin Boyle just off them.
That would just cause absolute chaos, wouldn't it, in the Scottish Premiership? But no, I mean, if you could mix and match, rotate those two, I would say, I mean, Hibs have got a strong team anyway, you know. They broke their own transfer record to bring in Thibault Clegia for Luzerne, another striker. So really strong squad. The Gordons really have backed David Gray, and to be fair, he's repaying them. So get through this tonight, get Big Lyndon Dykes in the door. Wow, what a season would lie ahead for Hibs.
Absolutely. No, I think the only thing to ask you, Fraser, is your predictions. How do you think it's going to go? I know I'm trying to be positive, glass half full, but genuinely, I do think Hibs are going to get a result tonight. I genuinely think they're going to get through this.
This is a first goal game, isn't it? So let's be positive. See Hibs get that first goal, and let's be even more positive and have no extra time or penalties, please. Maybe a 2-0 victory like over in Partizan Belgrade. That is a big ask, but I think they're capable. Get that first goal and it's game on. So I'll go 2-0. Let's be positive. Scottish football, does it not need it this week?
And having seen Liga Warsaw, Fraser, I think that's more than possible. They're not formidable. They're a decent team, but I think Hibs can do that.
Warsaw, I don't think they're much of a step up, if any step up at all, for Partizan Belgrade. Of course, Hibs were helped a wee bit against Belgrade with the red card over there and back in Leith. That helped a bit. Who knows, something like that could happen and go in their favour tonight. But no, very similar. They do have dangers. I thought the boys Jean-Pierre and Sammy last week caused Hibs backline trouble. Pavel, who scored the second goal? The boy that knocked the second goal in, Pavel Slozek. He was highlighted as a danger man. He looked good up and down the right-hand side. So they do have danger men. That I say they're not really much of a level above Partizan Belgrade, but they've still probably got a bigger European pedigree than anyone Hibs have faced so far. So they got the quarterfinals this tournament as well last season, only losing to the eventual winners Chelsea. So it's a big ask. But look, if anyone can do it, this Hibs side can do it.
Fingers crossed. Fraser, it's an absolute pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. Thank you so much. I hope it's an absolute cracker for you and safe travels up the road when the time comes.
Cheers. I'll away and fill my boots with some free grub. These boys.
Nice one.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Fraser Wilson, they're having the time of his life in Warsaw. Tam Marzuno says, I've given the kiss of death to Hibs. Tell me I'm not being naive. Hibs can do this tonight, can't they?
They did give it last week. You said 3-0 to Hibs. I'm not forgotten that, by the way.
So I did.
And by the way, I think Fraser's been trying to pronounce that Polish boy's name. I think he's been on the bevy, never mind the food.
Listen, we can't rule it out.
Listen, I think he's spot on. I think it is a first goal game. I think if Hibs get it, it's game on. The tie's level, and you can go and try and win the game. I think if Legia Warsaw get it and they go 2 ahead, I think that's going to be a bridge too far for Hibs. But listen, Hibs will go and give it everything, and they've got quite a deep squad at the minute. They've got a lot of competition for places. The interesting one for me is the goalkeeper. I've not been convinced with him in the last few weeks, and they signed, the Austrian guy Salinger in the summer window for big money, and he's had a clean sheet one game against Livingston. So I wonder if David will stick with Smith or he'll bring the Austrian guy in. So that's the main one for me. I think the rest of the team will pick itself, but I think if Hibs can get that first goal, I would drop the boy Smith, Daniel.
Aye.
I don't think he's been inspiring confidence for a number of weeks now. He obviously got out of jail against Partizan big time, and I just think he's a bag of nerves at the minute. And going to an intimidating atmosphere stadium, I'd be tempted to change the keeper. But listen, and David Gray knows more than me, and he'll make the call.
I actually agree with you. To be honest, like Scott, I don't know what you think, but watching that Partizan game, whenever it was at Easter Road, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And no harm to him. I'm sure he has a really good keeper. But if you're a defender with that behind you, it just doesn't inspire confidence, does it?
I don't think he's ever been convincing, Tam Smith, has he really? I mean, he's a decent shot stopper. I don't think MD's really thought you're the long-term Hibs number one. Obviously, when a new guy comes in the summer, you think, that's a big signing, but then it's a bit strange that he doesn't start. Look, David Gray must see something in Smith. He's talked him up. But I agree with Tam. I think he might change it for tonight. And this guy, the new guy's got a chance to come in and really make the jersey his own. But Tam's right. I mean, that's going to be a crucial decision because defensively they're going to need to be at it tonight, and that's where I kind of worry about Hibs, if I'm being honest. I think they've got a real chance, especially as we say if they get the first goal. I think they're a real threat up front. You mentioned Bowie, but I think it's almost a cliche now, but the Boyle's pace going away from home will be really important for them. I think they'll take huge belief for the Partizan game. Just knowing that they can go to an environment like that and get a result, soak up a wee bit of pressure, hitting the break, create chances. So that will help them. But they're going to need to be at it. I think it's a tough task. I think Legia probably are a step up for Partizan. But if they go there and get the first goal, as we talked about, then anything's possible.
We kind of say lightheartedly, Tam, about, hope they can restore the faith in Scottish football. But I mean, the coefficient is taking such a battering recently. I was reading the other day that from 27-28 season, second in Scotland is only going to get the Conference League playoff or Conference League second round qualifying. So the champions will get 3 Champions League qualifiers, second will be Conference League, and the Scottish Cup winners will be Europa League. We really need Hibs and Aberdeen, teams like that, to basically start winning games.
Yeah, we do. Listen, I think that Rangers obviously have been the flag bearers for a number of years. They've been excellent in the Europa League. They've racked up a lot of coefficient points. Unfortunately, last night, as we've seen, they've not many points this season, and neither have Celtic, to be honest. So, you're right, other clubs need to chip in as well. It can't just be Celtic and Rangers. It's got to be Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United. And I think Hibs have won a game. Aberdeen obviously drew a game. Dundee United never won a game. So, listen, points have been scarce, and you're really needing Aberdeen and Hibs to go away from home to tough venues and get a win to get a few points in the coefficient. But as I say, just staying on Hibs, I think they're capable of winning the game. My heart's saying they will do it, but my head's saying they've maybe just left themselves too much to do over there. But I'm going to go for 2-1 to Legia. I think it will be a bridge too far for Hibs, unfortunately. I think the European one will come to an end tonight, but I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, that is great, Tam, but it's going to be 3-0 Hibs, just to let you know.
Say that again.
I'm only joking. I'm not going with that. Scott, before I stitch Hibs up, have you got a prediction?
Prediction, I tend to agree with Tam. I think they'll put up a good show. I think they'll probably score, but I can't see them keeping a clean sheet or keeping it tight earlier. So that'll probably be their undoing. And see, just in the coefficient thing, I agree with you, obviously, but I think there's actually a wee bit more pressure on Hibs and Aberdeen and that now because of the kind of financial backing that they've got. I think there's serious owners there now that have put money in, and they'll expect not just to qualify for Europe, but actually go and get results. I think there's maybe a wee bit more pressure than there has been in previous years, but you're right. I mean, we need to start racking up the points because, as you say, what's on the horizon in terms of European qualification, even for the top two, is quite worrying.
No, I couldn't agree more. Tam, I'm conscious that I'll need to let you go in a wee minute, but see, just before I do, we're going to talk obviously about Rangers in depth in a minute. Obviously, Scott was there last night in Bruges. But I just wanted to get your take. You've been a professional footballer. You've played at the highest level in this country. And I get this is a very expansive question, one that you basically can't answer, and I'm stitching you up. But why are we so bad in Europe? Like, why is this never-ending cycle just continuing to go on? You look at countries much smaller than us, like Croatia, producing great players. Uruguay's only get 2.5 million. Why can we not seem to be better, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. We're obsessed with football.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a finger on, and listen, we could be here all night debating it, but I think it's a technical thing. I just think when you go and you see teams from Austria or Montenegro or Croatia, they're so much more comfortable in the ball than us.
Aye.
And it's the same everywhere. And I remember playing against teams, when I was at Hibs or Dunfermline, and you're playing against Swedish teams or teams from Bulgaria, and they're just so good on the ball. And
is that coaching, Tam?
Some of them are teams you've never heard of, and you're thinking they're comfortable on the ball, that they're brought up to play a certain way, and sometimes you can't get near them. Our strengths, I think, are power and pace and getting the ball in behind and all that. And if you come up against a European team that's big and strong and can play, then you're gobbled. You can't overpower them. So I just think that it is a technical thing, and maybe a mentality thing. We've not had the confidence of going to winning places. That's why the Hibs result against Partizan was such a great result, because you think it was a long time since a Scottish team out with Celtic Rangers have went away from home and got a cracking result like that on the road. So, listen, we could debate youth football and people coaching and all that stuff, but I genuinely just think it's a technical thing, and that's it probably, to be honest.
Marzuno in the comments, Scott says, Strachan might have been right. Genetics. I'm not having that. Nah, come on. We can be better than we currently are.
Do you know another thing, Daniel? Sorry.
Huh?
See your Scotland youth teams from 15, 16, 17, 18s, they're all as good as anyone. And I don't know what happens from 18s to 21s to 21s to full squad.
They regularly get to the last stages of competitions, don't they?
Yeah, yep. If you go and watch a Scotland under 15 or 16 team against Spain or Portugal, I think we're every bit as good as them. But I don't know what happens, whether it's players not being dedicated enough to their craft, having a good enough attitude, going out all the time, drinking, other aspects that can derail you.
Aye.
But it's that 16 to 18 where I think that's the bit where we're struggling at, and it's maybe we've got to look at the B teams. You've got to look at farming players out. You've got to maybe put a B team down in the third division, like Belgium do, Holland do, Germany do, something like that, to give players full first team football. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be that gap for me, 16 to 18, 19, where we seem to fall down, and that's where it all crumbles from being really promising 14, 15, 16.
Mm-hmm. Scott, can you solve the Canadian Scottish football?
I agree with a lot of that. I think opportunity as well at that age. I just think not enough young players are getting a game. You see all the stats. There's not enough kids at that age playing competitive first team football. I do agree with Tam. I definitely think there's something in the kind of hunger and attitude side of it. Tam's right. You go to Croatia, for instance, you see young players coming through. They just look so hungry to be a success. Do you know what I mean? Just dedicate their life to being a professional and making it and getting out of Croatia and going and playing at the highest level. I don't know why. I don't know whether it is our culture or the environment that our kids are kind of brought up in, but they just seem to lack that kind of appetite. Listen, there's outliers there. You think of guys like Billy Gilmer and that, for instance, who to think what he's went and done after leaving Rangers, but I just think Tam's right. There's so many. You speak to coaches all the time, and they say, don't listen to this nonsense that Scotland isn't producing talented footballers. We are, because as you say, Daniel, we're obsessed with the game. We do produce players, but Tam's right. It's what happens in that gap, that kind of between 16 and 19, where I think there's a real lack of opportunity, and I think the clubs need to take responsibility for that. And I don't know what we can do to change that. We've tried loads of different things, whether it's reserve leagues, under 18s, obviously the B teams, and that's been talked about the last couple of years. But something has to change. These boys need to play competitive football regularly. I think that's the only way you're going to get them to the highest level.
Tam, as ever, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. I appreciate you trying to solve Scottish football for us.
I'll need longer than 10 minutes, by the way.
I hope it's an absolute cracker for you tonight.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed the Hibs can do the business.
Right. Cheers, guys. Have a good evening.
Cheers, Tam. You too. Scott, away from the business of Scottish football as a whole, singing the blues in the comments says, don't bother talking about Rangers. Unfortunately, we have to talk about Rangers. Before we get into it, shall we hear from Russell Martin?
Why not?
Why not? Let's hear what he had to say.
Just really hurt, really embarrassed by the defeat. It's probably the toughest night I've had as a head coach and manager. But yeah, it doesn't change the fact that I think we can get this place going, we can get the team going, and as I said, progress and move forward and grow. And we have an opportunity to really do that, to feel everything tonight that comes our way and to accept it, because we have to, with the manner of defeat. And then we have a chance to really show some character and some growth and some personality and desire on Sunday.
Just finish with you, Ronnie.
I think the general consensus tonight from fans, Russell, is that they want you gone, unfortunately. When it gets to that level of toxicity with the fans, can that be repaired?
Yeah, by winning football matches. So, as I said, when it's got to that point before, maybe there's been changes, and I don't think the club's changed too much, or performances haven't improved that much or changed too much. So I understand it, and as I said, I'm not going to sit here and try and explain in real detail tonight. I have to take everything that's thrown at me, and so do the players, so do the group. But it's my responsibility, the team, so I have to accept all of it. But it won't affect the work that we do moving forward and to get ready for Sunday, because that has to be the focus now.
Russell, there was some chance throughout the first half aimed at yourself. Given the nature of the defeat, do you worry about your future now? I know it's short, but just given the anger and frustration around it.
No. I think we had such a tough task tonight, and we made it. The most hurtful thing is we make it so tough for ourselves. We did last Tuesday, we did tonight. So much self-inflicted pain, and then our response, because we're not strong enough as a group yet, our response to a bit of disappointment is just so poor. So no, I understand the fans' frustration, I understand the disappointment, I understand their anger, because they love this club and they want to see a team that they're proud of. So even with 10 men, there wasn't enough to be proud about tonight. There was nothing to be proud of. So Sunday, we need to put a team on the pitch that's really willing to give everything and make sure that we, like I said, don't not do the basics like we did tonight.
Obviously, with Nico's situation, fans felt he was the best player the team had last year. He's been in and out of the team this year. Is it fair to say that there's still some uncertainty whether or not he'll be here beyond Monday when the deadline comes? Is that a situation?
Yeah, I think there's a few of the guys that there's a bit of uncertainty around at the moment. So it's really hard to build your team around people we're not convinced or not fully sure that will be here.
Russell Martin there. Scott, I'm going to come to yourself in a wee minute, but I've got several, pretty long actually, comments sitting in from Rangers fans that I feel obliged to get. I really should get through these because they've taken a lot of time. George Wilson writes in saying, I've supported Rangers for 60 years, seen every game this season. Last night's performance was humiliating and embarrassing. In a short space of time, Russell Martin has taken Rangers to a new low. System doesn't work, the team can't defend, his signings have been awful, and it's unanimous amongst Rangers support he has to go. We can't keep sacking managers, but if the owners are the astute businessmen we've been told they are, they must recognise they made a mistake and remove Martin as soon as possible. Alec writes in saying, as a Rangers fan, you've got to laugh at how much of a joke we've become. No ifs, buts, or maybes. Martin is way out of his depth. He's making good players like Gassam and Ant-Man look mediocre and making poor players like Aarons and Rothwell worse. We must be the king of interview, or he must be the king of interviewing. George McLeish says this is the worst manager in Rangers history. We've had a lot of those in the 15 years, but none as bad as him. To say you don't have to win every game just shows how arrogant and stupid he is. Bit harsh, George, but this is Glasgow, pal, and you need to win every game. We demand it. So you and your cronies pack your bags, along with all the dumplings you sign, and get back to England. We don't want you here. You are clueless and incompetent. You've never won anything in your life. We need some Scottish blood in the team, not has-beens from England. And just finally, this one from Scott. Martin must go before Sunday. He's clearly out of his depth, losing the dressing room already. He should be replaced by Graham Souness until the January transfer window. I mean, particularly that one there from George McLeish, Scott, was pretty harsh, I thought, but it's just indicative.
Apart for that, he thinks he's doing no a bad job.
Exactly, aye. Apart from that, he's all right. But no, that's indicative of how the Rangers fans are feeling. I mean, it's really hard to see how Russell Martin gets through this.
It is. I mean, the first line of my match report for the game last night was, it's difficult to see how Russell Martin comes back for this. And that's my kind of overriding feeling, is that it doesn't really matter what he does now. The fans have made up their mind. I think even if they go and win against Celtic on Sunday, which looks unlikely, obviously, given current form, even if they were to win that game, fans still wouldn't want him at the club. And
do you think even say they won 2-0 at the weekend, say, would fans not go, right, okay, let's go again? No?
I don't think so. Maybe a small amount of them, Daniel, but you know why they wouldn't? Because there would be a feeling that after the international break, this squad would probably come back and lose to Hearts at Ibrox in the next game. There's no sign of any consistency, any patterns, no style of play that Russell Martin's obviously supposedly renowned for. The fans haven't seen any of that. And unfortunately for him, and it's not his fault, but when he was appointed, that appointment was met with real scepticism across the board for the Rangers support. To put it bluntly, they didn't want him in the first place. And the last three Rangers managers before him, Philippe Clement, Michael Beale, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, the fans also wanted them out when it got to a certain point. But there's never been this level of toxicity towards Russell Martin. None of those managers had the fans singing, telling him where to go. And look, we're 12 weeks in. I think he's 84 days into the job. I mean, it's just incredible. But most of us said, because of the scepticism when he came in, he had to hit the ground running. He had to get off to a good start in the eyes of the supporters. He had to give them something to cling on to. They had to see something that gave them a bit of positivity and optimism. They had to see something that changed their minds about him pretty quickly. And I keep saying it, he said in that first press conference that he understood that as much as he had to change things, including the mentality and the culture and revamp the squad, he had to do it while winning games. And that just hasn't happened. And it's worse than that. I mean, they're not winning games. They've not won a league game yet. The performances have been so poor. And last night, I mean, my God, that first 45 minutes, Daniel, was as bad as I've ever seen for a Rangers team.
So bad, it was bizarre.
Aye, I mean, honestly, we in the stadium, I mean, there was a great atmosphere in the stadium, but I don't think the home fans could believe how easy it was. I mean, I went into the mix zone after the game. Obviously, Andy was interviewing Russell Martin at the press conference, and I was down at the mix zone trying to get reaction for a couple of the players. And a couple of the Brugge players came in to get interviewed, obviously, by the Belgian media. And I heard one guy saying to Stankovic, who scored one of the goals, his first question was, so Alexander, I bet you didn't think you'd have a friendly game to play in for the Champions League playoff tie. And it was quite cocky and a bit insulting, but it was kind of hard to argue. I mean, it was so easy for them from pretty much from the get-go. The players need to take huge responsibility. I think, listen, we talk about Russell Martin, and of course he has to take massive responsibility. But I think other people at the club, Kevin Thelwell, sporting director, who's behind a lot of these signings, guys who don't look up to it, don't look good enough to play for Rangers or mentally strong enough to play for Rangers, he has to take a huge chunk of responsibility as well. I think last night, just collectively, in terms of the whole club, it was an absolute embarrassment. And listen, people, players and the manager himself has said that unforgivable. In terms of the setup, in terms of the tactics, once they went a goal, 2 goals behind, I thought was really strange, really bizarre. And probably the worst thing, Daniel, and it's no often you label this against players, but that first half, just a lack of effort. I mean, right for the first... You look at the first goal, for instance, which obviously sets the tone. I mean, Antman no tracking his runner after less than 5 minutes in the right flank and just allowing Bruges to get in. Obviously, Giga loses his man in the middle, who comes in and scores with a header. But that, maybe I'm being harsh on Antman. I mean, he's a new player. He's relatively young. Actually started off really well, obviously, when he came in for the Pilsen first leg, where he was brilliant. But honestly, within 5 minutes, surely Russell Martin's message must have been, keep it tight early on, stay compact, keep yourself in the tie, stay with your man. The Rangers pretty much went man for man from kick-off last night, and Antman just casually lets his man drift off him, and they get the first goal, and then it all unravels for then on in. It was incredible. We couldn't believe what we were watching. It was so bad.
That's where I've got a wee bit of sympathy for Martin Scott, in the sense that, you can talk about your philosophies and all the buzzwords you want, your style of play. If players aren't doing the basics, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to get beat. But having said that, obviously he chooses the players, he signed the players. And I mentioned to you before we come on air, I was really surprised last night to see Tavernier, Raskin, who was the other one? Diamandis, that's right, all on the bench, because they're guys that have been there and done it in Europe for Rangers. You through Endesers as well. I mean, he's asking for trouble doing that.
No, I think you're right. When we turned up at the stadium last night and seen the team, we looked at the midfield and just thought, a midfielder, Joe Rothwell, who's bang off for him, Lyle Cameron, who's actually did okay for Rangers so far, I certainly wouldn't accuse him of lack of effort. And Tilo Asgard. But Cameron and Asgard are attack-minded players, and I get Rangers had to get into the game and go and score a goal, go and try and win it, to try and get through. But you just looked at that midfield and thought,
wide open.
It's a bit lightweight. It's a bit open. It's a bit attacking. Guys, as I say, Asgard coming in. He's only started a couple of games. Rothwell, who's been a major disappointment so far. You just feared that the midfield would go overrun. I mean, that's where Brugge are really strong. When you think of Van Aken, the captain, and people like that, so strong in there, and that's the way it went. And tactically, I just think. I mean, we were on the flight back today with Ali McCoist, who was obviously covering it for TNT, and we agreed that Rangers teams in the past, once you go one down and down to 10 men, or even 2 down, I mean, the tie's gone. At 4-1 and 5-1, the tie's gone. So at that point, to maintain a bit of pride and kind of reputation, you just get compact. You pull guys in, you go kind of 4-4-1, whatever it might be, 5-4-0 as they went in the kind of second half. You just try and get out of there, with your reputation intact, even if it is a 2-0 defeat, because after the game you can then talk about the red card. There's been a pivotal moment in the game and the tie getting away from you. But it was the capitulation, it was the collapse, it was the way Rangers approached it once they went 1 goal, 2 goals down. And honestly, I mean, if it wasn't for Jack Butland, that first half, mate, I mean, it was 5-0. Brugge have hit the bar twice. I think Butland's pulled off 2 or 3 top saves in that first half. You're talking Rangers could have been 8-0 down in one half of football. And with all due respect to Club Brugge, it's no Real Madrid or PSG.
Scott, they're not even the Belgian champions.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, what I spoke to one Rangers fan last night. He said that it was genuine. It was like watching a pub team go up against Real Madrid. It was that bad. The gap. You think even wee moments like Van Aken's chance in the second half where he's in the box, he's almost toying with Rangers. There's
9 players around them.
He twisted and turned like 2 or 3 times. He feigned to shoot, and then they ended up kind of squandering the chance, but weren't too bothered about it because it didn't matter by that stage. That's where the real embarrassment comes in. And as you say, there's no excuse for it because there's still the crux of a squad there. Butland, Tavernier, Suter, Raskin, Diomande, Dessers. These guys have gone away to Europe before and produced big results. I mean, it's only a matter of months ago they went to Fenerbahce and won 3-1 against Mourinho's team. Got a draw with 10 men at home to Bilbao and kept themselves in a tie the Europa quarter-finals. So there's just no excuse for it. And Russell Martin knows that. And listen, it goes without saying he's under major pressure. We learned today that the club are backing him for now. He'll be in charge for the game on Sunday. What the atmosphere is going to be like on Sunday, we're at home crowd. I mean, aside from anything else, somebody was telling me today there's still plenty of tickets left for the home end.
That's crazy.
Which is unheard of for an Old Firm game. That tells its own story. And look, he has to win the game. He has to win the game. It's as simple as that. And if he doesn't, I think there's almost it sounds ridiculous we're even talking about it because it's so early in the season. But if you're going to sack a manager early or admit that it's not happening and it's not going well, it's just not right, I think almost this weekend is like the cut-off point, if that makes any sense, because it's
international break.
It's the end of the transfer window on Monday. The first Old Firm game of the season has been, which is always a barometer, and you then know what the gap is, if there is a gap between the clubs. And as you say, the international break gives the board and the hierarchy at Rangers a bit of breathing space to really take a step back and say, right, look, what's going on here? What's went wrong? What has to change? So I think this weekend is going to be key, both in terms of the result And then what happens after that in terms of Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart, and obviously the American owners who, up until now, since they came into power at Rangers, have been pretty silent. We've not heard again from Andrew Kavanagh or Parag Marathi. I think now or certainly after the game on Sunday, they have to speak up. You need to hear from Andrew Kavanagh as chairman, I think, to talk about Russell Martin, talk about where the club's at, talk about how they feel about the start they've made, because ultimately when Americans came in, we sat at that press conference and they said they were making this major investment, they were making a decision on the head coach, and their expectation was to quickly become the top team in Scotland again. They couldn't see a reason for that not happening this season. And unfortunately, at the moment, that looks a mile off. I mean, at the moment, it looks as if Rangers will be struggling to get second, never mind first in the league. So I would expect the American owners to speak up after Sunday, and we'll have after the window closes, the Old Firm game's out of the way, I think we'll have a clearer picture one way or another on Russell Martin's future at Ibrox.
We're going to catch up with Scott Burns, Record Sport Scott Burns, who is in Romania for the Aberdeen game. But before we do, Scott, I've got a few more Rangers comments to get through. James says the board did not understand the magnitude of Martin's downfall at Southampton, and then they underestimated how tough Scottish football is, buying players they thought would dance through defences. Craigie says, no, Daniel, even if he wins at the weekend 7-0, he still needs to go. John says, even Guardiola's finding it hard to get his team to play Pep-style football with top-class players. Russell Martin has zero chance of succeeding in the SPFL with mediocre players. And then, of course, we move to Sunday. You mentioned it there yourself, Scott. V Machine says, if Celtic win on Sunday, the Rangers fans will turn on the new board. And the Sweeney says, Martin will be gone if he fails to beat them on Sunday. Singing the Blues says, Sunday's game should be dubbed El Crapico. Both teams are honking. And Mark simply asks, who's going to win? Worst attack or worst defence? Both teams a shamble for different reasons. How do you see Sunday's game going, Scott?
I've got absolutely no idea.
I can't agree more. I mean, it'd be a draw probably, you know.
It's one of those ones where everything still points to a Celtic win. I mean, they've started the domestic season fairly well. Obviously, there was a massive disappointment in Europe. The other night, they had their own kind of humiliation going out of the Champions League to Kairat. But, as I said, they've started the domestic season pretty well. You look at the squads, Celtic still looks stronger. Guys that have been there and done it, won titles, won trophies, went to Ibrox and won before. But it's Scottish football, it's Old Firm, it's madness. You can't predict it. Would it surprise me if Rangers, it looks as if Rangers are going to get a new striker and maybe even two before the weekend, Bojan Majowski being one of them?
I was going to ask you about that, Scott. I mean, do you see him as being a good signing?
I do, aye. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced he's exactly what Rangers are looking for, but given the circumstances, I think they need experience. I think they need guys who know Scottish football, and this guy's proven in terms of scoring.
I'm a bit surprised Celtic are letting them have a free run at it, or seemingly.
Aye, possibly. We spoke a few weeks ago, didn't we, when Celtic were desperately kind of looking for another striker, and we thought, why no look at Majowski if he's available, especially if you look at the fee being talked about in terms of him going to Rangers. Look, he scored big goals in Scotland against the Old Firm. So, listen, if that deal gets done in the next kind of 24 hours, which we're expecting it to, then I think he could be thrown in on Sunday, and I don't think it would faze him. And you know yourself, Daniel, history tells you wee things like that will just give fans a lift, just maybe change the narrative slightly, maybe changes the atmosphere slightly. You know, it's like getting a new centre forward, a new number 9 coming in. It might just give Rangers something. And would it surprise me if Russell Martin somehow gets a performance out of them and they go and win the game? Probably no, but as I say, I don't think that really changes the discussions that need to take place at board level after Sunday, because it's still been a poor start. And as I say, the manner of the defeat last night, and also the recruitment, which a few of the callers have touched upon there. No, that's a big worry. I mean, Rangers have signed 9 players so far in this window, out with Cameron and Cortez, who were already signed up. But of those 9 players, I mean, I think Gassama is the only one that's really shown that he's capable of handling it at Rangers and performing and producing big moments. And look, he was poor. He was poor last night as well, by the way, but he's produced a few big moments already. I like his attitude. He always wants to take the ball. I think he's shown a bit of character, a bit of personality. So few of them have done that so far. And you're looking down those signings, and as I say, I think it's a big worry, the recruitment. And what I mean by that is, we touched on it before we came on. No, the old firm, it's unique. No, you need to be ability. Ability alone doesn't mean you can play for Rangers or Celtic. No, there is such a demand, such an expectation on you to perform week in, week out. I think only certain players can handle that and thrive in it and really relish it and go and be a success at the Old Firm.
Completely.
Unfortunately, I'm looking at a lot of these Rangers players at the moment, and you feel for guys like Max Aarons, for instance. I mean, I seen him last night after the game, and he just looked a shell. I mean, his eyes were glazed over. I mean, it was as if he couldn't believe what had happened to him. And well, I get that, because it's been a whirlwind for him coming from the clubs he's been at, Norwich and Bournemouth. With all due respect, this is a different kettle of fish altogether, and only certain players can deal with it. And I think a few of them are struggling with that. Russell Martin actually said it in his post-match interview last night. He said, it feels a bit, a few of the players are feeling it, being a bit heavy. Yeah. That shot being heavy on them. That's a worry. That's a worry when you've revamped that squad. And just finally, that's the big thing about Sunday in terms of his team selection. I think he's got a big dilemma on Sunday, because it's crying out for him to almost call on the old guard again, to get Raskin back in, to get Dessers back in, to get Tavernier back in. The ones that have been there, played in derbies, know what it's all about. Do
you think he does it?
You know what? I don't, because I think one or two might go in, but I think ultimately he's a guy that tries to stick to his principles, and that will mean sticking with the players that he's signed. No, the players that he's signed that he thinks can do a job for him. No, like an Asgard and a Rothwell and that. He needs, these guys need to prove to him that they can cut it. But honestly, there'll be such a temptation, and there'll be a demand from fans on social media and stuff in the next day or two. They'll want guys like Raskin and Tavernier back in, even Dessers, if they've not got another striker. No, I would argue they might even want guys like Conor Barron in, who's at least Scottish and knows what that game's all about. Whether he does that or no, I would have my doubts, but I think he's going to have a big selection dilemma on his hands, if he didn't already after getting hammered 6-0.
At times badly get away from Scott, but before we finish, I caught up with Scott Burns, who's in Romania for the Aberdeen game tonight, and to finish off, let's hear what he had to say. I'm joined in the Hotline Live now, all the way from Bucharest, by Record Sports' very own Scott Burns. Burnsy, the weather certainly looks nice. We've tried to record this 3 times now, and your iPhone's actually overheated.
That's it. Phone's in meltdown. iPhones are obviously not made for this weather. I wish it was meltdown with all these transfers and different stories, but unfortunately it was the heat.
Aye, we will come to transfers, don't worry. But obviously Aberdeen out in Romania for the second leg of the tie with FCSB. You were at Pittodrie for the first leg, Burnsy. How do you rate Aberdeen's chances of getting through tonight?
I think they've genuinely got a very good chance of getting through. I mean, if you look at the draw, the possibilities they could have got, I think this is the best of them all. And I know it was 2-each at Pittodrie last week, but I just don't think FCSB are that great a team. They were gifted 2 goals by 2 really defensive blunders by Aberdeen. But overall, Aberdeen were a better team in the later stages. I know the Romanians were down to 10 men, but even before they went down to 10 men, I didn't think they were that great, and they resat in their shape, and they were looking to hit in the counter. So, I mean, I expect a different approach from them. They surely can't sit in at home, but I think Aberdeen have got a genuine chance of getting through, especially if they can keep it tight at the back. They've definitely got the players at the top end who can score goals and possibly get into the holy grail of that Europa League group stages for the first time in their history.
I know they're guaranteed group stage football with the Conference League anyway, but it would be a massive achievement, as you say, to actually make the Europa League. That would be a really big achievement for Jimmy Taylor and Aberdeen generally.
Well, as I said, I mean, it would be the first time in their history, so on the back of a lot of this squad winning the Scottish Cup there in May, it'd be another monumental achievement. But I think that both the manager and the players, they've all made it clear that Europa League is what they want. They obviously fell into the Conference League 2 years ago, but this time they want a crack at the Europe's second tournament. And we spoke to Graham Shinney in the pre-match press conference last night, and he spoke about the disappointment and hurt of losing to BK Häcken over 2 legs 2 years ago, and he doesn't want a repeat of that. He wants to obviously finish the job in style tonight in Bucharest and get them into the draw for that Europa League tomorrow.
I know, Burnsy, you've been out seeing the sights. I think that's the Parliament behind you, isn't it?
Is that, yes.
Is there many Dons that have made the trip over? Have you seen any?
Yeah, in fairness, I mean, they've been connecting their dribs and drabs, and quite a few came out yesterday, sort of thing. I think there's 750 to 800 Aberdeen fans out in the Romanian capital, so quite a lot were out in the old town last night watching some European games last night. I think there was a few celebrations along the way, but no, they all seemed to be, it was all good banter and good natured, and they were obviously mingling with the locals, so it's a really good atmosphere. So hopefully that continues tonight into the football.
We mentioned transfers at the top, Burnsy, and I need to get your take on a story that I know you've worked on, and that involves a former Aberdeen player, Bojan Miovski. It seems that he could be on his way to Rangers. If you are an Aberdeen fan, that must be a sore one to take.
Definitely. I mean, I think that even on the socials that a lot of Aberdeen fans have been asking what's happening with Bojan, but I mean, Aberdeen were never in a position to bring Bojan back. As soon as, I mean, in fairness, Aberdeen have spoken to Bojan in the last few days when it came out he was available, but he made it clear that he didn't want to go anywhere on loan. If he was leaving Girona, it was on a permanent basis, and at that point, the figures, the wages he's on, plus the transfer, Aberdeen probably could get to the transfer fee with the money they're making from Europe, but the basic his wages were just like, what would I say? I would think 4 times more than Aberdeen's current highest earner. So
wow.
Just a no-go in terms of a permanent arrangement. So sadly, it looks like he's going to be playing in the Premier League, and the love for Bojan in red and white might quickly disappear.
Well, at least Aberdeen fans can know now that they did try. You know, they did look into getting him back.
No. In fairness, no. Aberdeen, they made the call and they did check it. It's not as if they've just let them pass it by, let things pass by. No, they did genuinely make an attempt and ask the question, but it just never really got off the ground in terms of a permanent basis, because I think initially when the initial stories came out that it was a loan to Rangers, but as I said, I think what I wrote earlier in the week, that it was definitely a permanent. He didn't want to go anywhere on loan, so that killed that off. So Aberdeen will now have to look elsewhere for a striker ahead of the deadline.
Well, you mentioned the deadline. It's Monday, obviously. I think it's 7 p.m. for Scotland. Do you anticipate Aberdeen being able to find another striker? Is there anyone in the horizon, perhaps?
Yeah, they are working on 2 or 3 options in terms of the striking. I think they're certainly talking to one player just now, so it'd be interesting to see if that comes off. But I believe that there's competition for that player, so that'll come down to probably financial again, and maybe in Aberdeen's case, geography as well might work against them. But you just never know. But as I said, they want an attacking midfielder in, and they want a striker in. That's on top of Mitchell Fame, which is agreed, and it's just a case of him passing a medical, so the young left back from Aberdeen should be in within the next couple of days.
Right, Burnsy, just finally, I'm really hoping after an absolutely brutal week, really, for Scottish football in Europe, that Aberdeen can restore my faith a little bit this evening. What do you think the score will be? What's your prediction?
I genuinely think if Aberdeen can keep it tight, I think they can win the game, and I think I would go for a 3-1 Aberdeen victory, and might surprise the FCSB owner, who's obviously tipping his team to progress. And he's not even, I think he's not even talking about progressing beyond Aberdeen. He's talking about his team actually winning the Europa League. So I don't know what team. I don't know what team he's been watching in recent weeks. But if it's certainly his own, then I think a visit to the Romanian Specsavers might help.
Nice one, Bundy. I sincerely hope your tip is accurate, and I guess we'll find out tonight. I hope it's an absolute cracker for you, whatever happens, and safe travels up the road when the time comes.
Thanks. Fingers crossed for Aberdeen and Hibs tonight.
Absolutely. Cheers, Burnsy.
All the best. Take care.
Scott Barnes there. And before I let you go, Scott, are Aberdeen going to do it tonight? What's your score prediction?
I don't think so. Honestly, he's the most optimistic Aberdeen guy ever, isn't he?
He said before we went on air, he was like, "This mob are rotten. Aberdeen are going to win comfortably." I was like, "Okay."
I'm not convinced, Daniel. I watched the first leg and I thought Aberdeen were disappointing up until Stoya went down to 10 men, and then Aberdeen obviously made a game of it. I think the big striker for Bucharest, Baligia, I thought he caused them all sorts of problems, and if he's playing tonight, I think it'll be the same story. I don't think Aberdeen are strong enough defensively. So no, I just can't see it. As much as I'd love them to get through and get into the Europa League groups, I think they'll struggle over there. So no, I'd go for I'm going to be Mr. Pessimism and go for a 2-0 victory for FCSB.
Your experience last night's just beating you down.
Exactly, aye.
I think that brings us to the end of Thursday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you very much for all of the comments that have come in as ever. They're brilliant. The last thing I need to mention before we sign off, William writes in, is Sunday's edition of the Hotline Live 2 p.m. It's actually at 4 p.m. So obviously the game kicks off at 12. Spoke to Keith Jackson, who will be back in the saddle for Sunday's game, and he says, I said, wait, he said 4 p.m. I need to do my column, mate. So there you go. 4 p.m. it will be on Sunday, and you'll be back. Are you working at the game, Scott?
I am indeed. So I'm sure you'll speak to me at some point, Daniel.
I'm sure I'll be pestering you for a chat at some point. But thanks for watching at home, Scott. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Scott. And as I say, thanks for watching at home. And see you Sunday. Cheers.